What's going on, everybody? I already recorded this and apparently my audio was off. So moral of the story, always check your audio, always check that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. It's the lessons in life that just really get you sometimes. Now let's get started on this. We have some Bitcoin news. We're going to talk about Bit briefly. They have earnings coming up. We're also going to talk about the spot Bitcoin ETFs, and we'll see what else we get into. First off, Bitcoin price to see a massive move to new all-time high if this chart pattern plays out, and this is on the 2-week. I don't know if you guys use the 2-week on the charts. I don't. And what I've noticed with patterns is typically, you want to find things that other people will find. If it's something that no one's going to notice, then the pattern is not going to play out, right? But look at what we've seen before. We saw this back in 2019 and 2020, and then we get a break out of this upper resistance here. Maybe we see something similar. We keep broadening out, and then you see a break of this upper resistance, and we go on to create new all-time highs. But this is where things get really interesting. This Matthew Hyland observed that the Bitcoin to USD pair formed a similar setup it did last year heading into Q4, as well as how it set up in election years 2012, 2016, and 2020. And Hyland explained that in each of these years, Bitcoin found a bottom before embarking on a sustained uptrend heading into the fourth quarter. And Hyland also believes that this recent crash in Bitcoin's price below 50,000 marked the bottom for Bitcoin for this cycle. And this Roman trading mentions a weekly closing that's strong with the bullish divergences. We also re-entered our consolidation range with a bullish hammer candle. The SPX, the VIX, and the Dixie are providing bullish confluence as discussed earlier this week. Macro says up, just a matter of time. And look at where we are on the Fear and Greed Index. The index is currently sitting on extreme fear with a score of 25, which is a major decline from a day ago when it indicated fear with a score of 39. You want to take advantage of the fear. To me, we're getting towards the end of this cycle. I'm not necessarily going to be a buyer of the Bitcoin miners, of cryptos in 2025, specifically late 2025. I might dabble a little bit in 2025, and swing trades are a whole nother story with a stop loss. But in terms of looking for these kind of for a year out investment, you don't want to be buying in 2025 with hopes of selling in 2026. Just following the cycle, that would be probably not what you want to do. You never know how things play out, but my goal is taking profits throughout 2025. You wanted to buy in 2022, 2023, and most of 2024. To me, now is one of the last opportunities to buy the Bitcoin miners, to buy Bitcoin. We just got out of the halving, so the miners have all pretty much tanked over the last few months. You don't want to necessarily buy when things are rallying in 2025 and you're getting closer and closer to the top and getting closer and closer to the cycle end. But let me know how you guys are going to play the cycles. Are you just going to buy regardless of the cycle and continue to look long term? Or are you going to play the cycle and plan on selling most of your assets in 2025? We also have news of Metaplanet, which is a company in Japan that's been utilizing a Bitcoin strategy. They have been adding Bitcoin to their treasury or balance sheet. Well, they bought another roughly $3.4 million worth of Bitcoin. What I suspect is we'll see more and more companies adopt this strategy because this stock price did very well because of this. The market will start seeing, and execs will start seeing, that if they announce a Bitcoin buy, if they announce Bitcoin loan, if they announce adding Bitcoin to their treasury, if we see a short-term stock appreciation because of it, more companies will get into that. More companies will see what it brings short-term, and they'll want to jump on. These savvy public companies are using the fiat system's cheap lending rates to accumulate scarce Bitcoin. Think about this. If you have a 5-year loan, a 10-year loan, you wouldn't want to do this necessarily as an individual, but as a company, you can take out a 5-year loan, 10-year loan, buy a bunch of Bitcoin. If you look at any 5-year period, Bitcoin is never lower than it was 5 years ago. And you can even look at less than that, probably more like 4 years, 3 years, if you follow the Bitcoin cycles. But to me, a 5-year loan, a 10-year loan, from a company standpoint, probably not to an individual, but to a company, that's very easy money. You buy your Bitcoin over that 5 years, you just slowly pay off that loan with your profits from your Bitcoin, rinse and repeat. There's obviously risk involved there. If the 4-year cycle doesn't continue repeating, if Bitcoin gets into an extended bear market, there is definitely risk to it, but I can see the reasoning for companies getting into doing this. Looking at Bitcoin, it's been in this descending broadening pattern. One thing you can do is buy on the lower range of this pattern and sell on the higher range. This has been a clear pattern for the last few months. Of course, it'll change eventually, but what you can do is buy in the lower range, sell in the higher range. One thing to realize is we do see pullbacks like this every cycle. We see these 30% plus corrections, and then Bitcoin continues on to rally after it shakes out the weak hands. Bitcoin is overall in a bull market. I expect it to top out still in 2025. And to think that we only top out a few percent above our last cycle top, to me that just doesn't make sense. If this was 2025 and we were here, I would definitely be concerned, but we're still in 2024. Bitcoin is doing what it always has done. There is typically a slow period after every halving where people second think themselves. They're like, why isn't Bitcoin rallying? Maybe I should leave now. But Bitcoin does what it always does. And in the following year after the halving, we get that supply shock and Bitcoin does rally. Now, what's going on with spot Bitcoin ETFs? Well, the 12 spot Bitcoin ETFs on August 12 did see net inflows, although on August 9, they saw 45 million in outflows. Grayscale only saw $11 million in outflows. And I want to show you Grayscale is down to 13,700 million in assets under management. And in terms of Bitcoin, they hold 232,000 Bitcoin. At some point, you'll be left with just the holders of Grayscale, the people that aren't trying to exit for lower fees. Soon, we will reach just a solid base of holders here. And the ones that exit will have done so already. But to think that the spot Bitcoin ETFs have been a net negative for Bitcoin, that's just ignoring the data. BlackRock, net assets. Since the inception, remember this has only been out for a few months. BlackRock now has 20,500 million in assets under management. And in terms of Bitcoin held, they have 350,000 Bitcoin nearly. Soon they will have 500,000 Bitcoin. Soon they will have 1/20th or so of the supply. In a few years from now, they could have as much as 1/5 of the supply. And you can see where the decentralization starts changing, and this is a whole debate or a whole issue for another video. But what's going to happen is BlackRock is going to continue to buy up all the Bitcoin, so you better buy it up while you can. They know that it's a scarce asset. They see the light. They understand. I also want to quickly mention Btbt. They do have earnings coming up. If you want to follow its pattern, you buy in this green zone, you sell in the red zone, set a stop loss under its previous resistance right here, right around 180. That'd be a pretty easy trade in my opinion. I like Btbt a lot while it's under 3. I think it's okay where it's at here and going into the 4s and 5s, but I won't necessarily be buying in 2025. This is when I plan on selling. Looking at earnings, they expect $26 million in revenue. If you go back a year over year, this would show an over 100%, over a double up in revenue growth, and that would be fantastic. One thing is they are expecting a loss, but last quarter they posted a profit. Keep in mind, this quarter is the first quarter reflecting the halving. But last quarter they did post a profit, and the quarter before that they posted a non-GAAP profit, but they did post a standardized or a GAAP loss. But that revenue growth has been substantial thanks mostly to the AI recently. And when looking at the Bitcoin miners, I do think diversification is key. They will run at different times. They will announce dilution at different times. There will be short reports at different times. There will be bullish and bearish analyst price targets at certain times. In my opinion, you want multiple Bitcoin miners. I'm in CleanSpark because it's the most efficient miner. To me, there's a long-term stock. I'm in Btbt because I like their AI. I like their market cap size. I like that they hold and stake Ethereum. They have a pretty solid balance sheet, and I do expect, chart-wise, it to continue trending up and to the right. There are different reasons to own different miners. I don't recommend just owning one. I recommend owning multiple Bitcoin miners because they will run and they will drop at different times. And it gives you a little bit more flexibility in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's smart to own multiple Bitcoin miners or just go all in on your top miner? The risk is higher that way. Also, how are you feeling about spot Bitcoin ETFs? I do think it's a positive to see that Grayscale's selling has been coming down a little bit. Their outflows have been diminishing. And it is a matter of time until we see over 500,000 Bitcoin in BlackRock's holdings. More and more Bitcoin will get locked up in there. Not much is going to be coming out of there. I do think crypto bear markets will change in the future and they might not be as severe thanks to these spot Bitcoin ETFs as a potential backstop. I do think, however, we will still follow the 4-year cycle. I do think there will be bull and bear cycles, although possibly not as volatile, possibly not as extreme. But let me know your thoughts down below. Always appreciate your opinions. Thanks as always, and I'll see you on the next one.